For our 2.2 practice and homework, it has us do the odd problems. That's what we're going to go over in this video here. So first off, we have number 1 says the high temperature of 4 different towns in Norway were measured on the same day. They were 9/10, -5/10, -1 3/10, and 1 2/10. So first we're going to graph these. So we know we're working in tenths. There's 10 in between each of these. So this is not a whole one yet, but it's very close to it. We're going to go 9/10 over. Right next to the 1, we have 0.9. It's nice to label them so you know what they are. Then we have -5/10. That's a -1/2 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So -5/10, -1/2, -1.3. So I need to go all the way to 1 whole and then 3/10 more. 1, 2, 3, -1.3. And we have 1.2 all the way to 1 and 1 2/10 more. So now we can see here's the lowest, second, the third, the highest temperature in these towns. So now we're going to use that information to complete these statements. So -5/10 is, we're saying smaller or greater than -1.3. Well, it's farther to the right, so it is bigger or greater. We should probably say greater. I feel like that's a better math word. So it is greater than -1.3. Because, how did we know that? Because -5/10 was to the right of -1.3. Whichever one's on the right ends up being bigger or greater. So now we're comparing 9/10 and 1.2/10. So 9 is on the left, so it is less than 1.2, and we know that because 0.9 is on the left. The one on the right is 1.2, so that one would be greater. Okay, let's check out number 3. We're going to graph the numbers on the number line and complete the inequalities. So these are all 20ths. And here I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are in tenths and these are 20ths. So we need to do some converting to be able to get these to fit on this number line. So I know these could be tenths. We could also break them up into hundreds because that is the same thing. So we're going to change these all into 100. So we're going to get our 4 fractions with denominators of 100 because I know that 20 can go into 100. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 5 times. So how do I get from 20 to 100? I times by 5. So 1 times 5 is 5. Then we have negative. This one's negative. How do I get from 20 to 100? Is times by 5. So 1 times 5 is 5. So these are the same but opposites. How do I get from 20 to 100? I times by 5. 6 times 5 is 30 hundredths. And then we have negative, same thing but opposite, -30 hundredths. So we need to think about these. So this is really like 10, 20, 30. Each of them are worth 10 all the way till up to 100. So we have 10 tens, that's 100. So we're at 5. We're not going over to 50. It's right here. 5 hundredths is right here. 5 hundredths. Then, which was this one, then we have the opposite of that. It's just going to be on the other side of 0, 5 hundredths. So it'd be 5, 10. So each of these is half. 15, 20, 25, 30. So we've marked this one and this one. Now 30, 10, 20, 30 is going to be here on the line. So the opposite's going to be 3 over 1, 2, 3. So we have all of these on here. Kind of need to remember which one is which. So these are the 30s. The closer ones are the 5s, positive and negative. So if we're looking at negative 6/20, that was this one here, over here. And we're going to compare it to negative 1/20, which was here. We kept everything in order so we know which is which. This one is farther to the right, so negative 1/20 is greater than negative 6/20. We also can just compare their denominators are the same. So the numerator that's bigger, since they're negative, is going to be farther over. This one is closer to 0. It's more to the right. Okay, let's check out this one. We have 6/20. Here's 6/20, so the largest one. And then the other positive one is pretty close to 0. So 6/20 is greater than 1/20. You have a candy bar broken up into 10 pieces. I'd rather have 6 of those pieces because it's my favorite than just one of those same size pieces. But in order to graph these on the number line, we had to turn them into hundredths. So you've got to think about what can fit on your number line easiest. Another way is we could have, I guess, broken these up into, it was already in 10 pieces. We could have made the 20s. And so here would be, yeah, I guess that works too. So lots of ways to do math. Here's 1/20, and here would be 6. So you can either turn them into decimals, or you can make your number line into that many pieces. All right, number 5 asks us to use the number line to write 2 different inequalities. So we're going to write it forwards, then we're going to write it backwards. So first we need to compare 2/5 and 5/10. So this is broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. So this can't go on here as it is. So let's think about this one. 0.5. I know if I'm talking about money, I can add the 0 and it's really 50 cents. 50 cents is half of $1. So here is 0.5. It's halfway to the dollar. Now this one is negative. So it actually doesn't matter where it's going to go over here. It's going to be farther to the left. I know that this is going to be smaller. If I did want to put it on the number line, I could take 2 and divide it by 5. Can't go into 2, but it goes in there 4 times. So 40, this would be 40. This was half, so it'd be about right here would be negative 2/5. And I can see 5/10 is greater. So here's one inequality. Now I need to flip it and write it backwards. So I'm going to start with the 5/10. The bigger side is facing the 5, and then compare it to negative 2/5. So I just write it forwards, then backwards. When it's farther to the right, it's going to be bigger. Number 7 says using the number line, select all the inequalities that are true. So we're just they've already graphed them for us. We just have to find the ones that are true. So we have 2.5 and 2 3/4. So before I even look at what they said, I'm just going to find them and I'm going to have my answer. I think 2 3/4 is bigger because it's more to the right. They also said it was bigger, so that is true. Now we have negative 1.25, negative 0.75. I think this one is bigger because it's more to the right. They also said that. That's true. So I'm not just looking at theirs. I have my answer and then I check theirs. 1.75 and negative 1/4. So I think this one's bigger because it's more to the right. So it should be opened up to 1.75 and it's closed off there. It says that's smaller, so that is not true. So I want you to try out these three, and I will give you a little hint. Out of these three, there's one of these that is true and two that are not true. So see, excuse me, if you can find the last answer to number 7. Number 9 says the average elevations of New Orleans is Louisiana is 8 feet below sea level. So if I'm thinking, right, here's the ocean at 0. Most of this city is below sea level. Like kind of have like these big walls and things like that. So like it's not under the water, but it's lower than the water. So what integer is used to represent this, right? If we're going below, -8 represents that. Write an inequality to compare these. Oh, so remember these mean distance from here to here. What is our distance from here to here? What is the distance to 0? So how do I get from -5 to 0? That's a distance of 5. This is a distance of 4 to get to 0. Now we're going to write the inequality to compare them. So tell me which one is bigger using your greater than or less than signs.